Shut up,
Okay,
phone.
we're back now that we got uninterrupted from the phone. But that's okay. That's part of business, and that's part of how life rolls. And we're still going to get through this. Okay, so we would talk about mindset and things like that. What has been in moving into doing your own, in setting up, and getting set up and doing things? How has that played out for you? Because was it how you kind of pictured it would be, or has that going through that changed
A
your?
little bit of both. A little in the beginning, I was struggling,
Okay.
and I had clients that were not blocked or former person, were not from my former company that were helping me out as much as they could. And besides all the letters and stuff they had coming in, I had my hands full. And because of that, I now have got a good reputation going with audits outside of my former company
Mhm.
of me doing a good job and getting him doing what I say I'm going to do
Mhm.
without charging them $10,000 to do an audit.
Right.
There's so many attorneys and so-called clients out there that says that they'll help you to do this, but yet they're taking so much money from you, it's not worth your time to really to do that. If you're going to pay somebody $10,000 to help you get you off the hook for $15,000 debt,
Right.
and you're still going to have to pay the IRS something, it's not really worth your time to do it.
Well, I
And I
wasn't.
believe in helping the littler people
Right.
who's being stepped on
Mhm.
by these companies, also by fraudulent tax preparers that are telling people it's okay to make up a Schedule C. I've had three couples since I've opened this office in May that have come in that tax preparers literally have sat down at their computer, went to irs.gov, got them an EIN number, and then made up the income and expenses.
Okay. But I wasn't talking per se about that. I was talking about you and how when you set up your business, did it really play out the way you kind of thought it would, or was it harder? What I mean,
Combination of both.
you know.
Because I didn't, at my former company, I did on average between 300 and 400 tax returns, and during the off season, I did about the same. So I was always busy doing something. On the weeks that I didn't have anything coming in, then I would hyperventilate and panic. And then on weeks, no, we're going to be fine. And then a week later, oh, geez.
Right.
It's an uphill battle.
But what I think maybe you're not understanding my point is, okay, so you've been in business, you've been out, you've worked as the employee, but you still kind of understood how business worked.
Mm-hmm.
But then coming in into setting up your own business, setting up, having to maybe set up your own book, set up your own stuff, set up your own thing. Did that play out the way you thought, or was it
Mm,
different or harder, or
it
because?
was, like I said, it's been a little bit of both.
Okay.
It's been a little bit of what I expected. Found out different things about Nevada law that I wasn't aware of that our former company didn't teach us.
Okay.
So it's been a little of both. It's been a little bit of, yes, I know what I'm doing. Oh, geez, I don't know what I'm doing here.
Okay.
So it's been
So it's a growing
it's a
process.
growing
It's like
process.
anything for anything. You learn, but it hasn't dampened your desire or where you want to go, what you see. Because
Mm-mm.
I actually know what your plans are because I plan on, you know,
Yeah, the
helping see
goal
some of that
the
to
goal is
grow your
to
business.
grow the business, grow BDR to where it is becomes, at least in Nevada in the next 5 years, um, a name brand,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel everybody's entitled to fair tax return
Mm-hmm.
at a fair price,
Mm-hmm.
a legal tax return,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to grow that into the bookkeeping as well as the I-10s.
Right.
I don't want to do payroll. There are too
Oh, that's
many.
funny.
There's too many. You would need a full-time person doing the payroll
I agree.
to keep up with just Nevada law.
I agree.
Federal law is easier. Nevada law sucks
Yeah.
because you got the rates are constantly changing, and I don't want to get into the HR. I don't want to, unless I actually hired a full-time person to do HR for people and payroll. I think I'm going to just leave that to the big boys like ADP
Right.
and let me take care of the taxes, the audit representation, the ITINs, and the bookkeeping.
So, in the sense of now taking your entrepreneurial spirit that you said you've had for a lot of years, um, but once again, we're relatively the same age. So, in that sense, how do how does that play out compared to like say 20, 30 years ago? How do you think it might have been different compared to that if you had jumped in and done something like this back then?
The biggest difference between then and now is I would have had my father as a mentor
Hmm.
because my father started off with Smith's. He was one of the youngest managers in the grocery business at the age of 19 as a full grocery store manager.
Hmm.
He's owned quite a few businesses. And the biggest difference between now and then is he passed away July 22nd, 2000.
Hmm.
And that was eventually going to be my goal. If he had passed away, I was going to sell my Radio Shack stock options I had. We was going to open my own franchise of Radio Shack up where he was at. And between him and my uncle, who both had a huge amount of business experience in management and advertising and stuff like that,
Okay.
I would have had two great mentors. Unfortunately, the Radio Shack stock dropped.
Well, we know where
And
they're headed even now.
right, I think at the time I left, I think that was probably the best time for me to leave.
Hmm.
I wish I could have sold the stock options in fact, I wish I would have sold half of my stock options that when it vested instead of waiting. I decided to wait till the following year and shouldn't
Big
have.
difference.
Oh yeah, because our dear sweet CEO decided in December to go sell 20 million shares of his stock.
Hmm.
So our stock dropped from $65, $70 a share down into the 20s. And I think at the time I finally sold it before I could quit Radio Shack, I only got 4,000 out of it.
Right.
So, compared to $60, $70 a share, and I had over 4,000 or 5,000 shares,
Okay.
that would have been enough to buy my Radio Shack, get it set up with a full inventory, everything I wanted to do, and had the two best people to help mentor me.
Now, what has
Except for the financial end, they told me to wait until the other stock vested so we could
right?
have the money available. And then my father passed away July 22nd, and then the other CEO, well, the CEO, as I mentioned in December, sold the stock. So
Right.
between the two, I lost my mentor and I lost my money.
Right. Now, what do you say about though? Because I know kind of how you started and got this going. You just kind of just did it. You made that mind decision that this is what you were going to do, and that nothing really was going to stop you from doing that. And
Right.
how's that helped? And how's that been the catalyst? Because maybe like you said, 20, 30 years ago, maybe your mind wasn't ready for that type of challenge or taking that on, or
It
you
was, but
yourself.
I also had a lot more responsibility back then. I was helping with my brother. I was helping with my mother, who didn't have any Social Security, was unable to find a job because she was a whistleblower.
Hmm.
So for me to do this on my own now, the only person I'm responsible finally is nobody but myself. So if I fail and end up on the street, it's nobody else but myself I'm going to hurt.
Okay.
Whereas back then, I had responsibility to be kind of a leader of the family and didn't have the courage. And I actually did have quite a few opportunities even coming out of high school. I had a friend of mine that was a really good friend of mine,
Hmm.
and she was a great singer.
Hmm.
There was a brand name artist back then that we had, between the two of us, we had a lot in common between friendship wise and everything else. She wanted Tina to be the lead singer for a band that she was going to build to be opening for her shows. And then they was going to teach me the back end of the entertainment industry of how to get contracts and how to do these different things.
Right.
And I had faith in me. I didn't have faith in her.
But what?
But it would still came down to the bottom line was for both of us, if we failed, it was going to hurt our families. If we succeeded, in other words, our family needed the income that our steady income that was coming in at
Mhm.
that time to survive.
Okay.
So if we had tried to do this and had gone out and failed, a we now didn't just affect us, we affected our families too, and how our families would survive. So choices were made to stick with the traditional versus going with the entertainment, which at 19, 20, I could have gone a long way at this point.
But I think also getting into looking at that and dealing with that sometimes, because you hear stories of people that have similar stories, similar things happen, but yet somehow they still do it.
Right. I think the difference between our families were so low income at the time.
I
I'm just saying that for us, there really wasn't a choice because our families at the time needed our income that was steady. When
okay.
you're, especially in the entertainment industry,
Mhm.
1 week you work, the next week you don't.
Right.
1 week you might have a contract, the next week it'll be gone and due to no fault of your own.
Right.
So it came down to steady traditional income or being brave. And I chose the
But I
steady
still go
traditional.
back to the point that, sometimes going back, I think we're our own worst enemies because I've had my dreams, I've had my things where
Hmm.
I know I could have done a
Oh,
lot
I could
more.
have done a lot more things if I hadn't had the responsibility I had with my family. If it was just, I was willing to take the risk if it was just me. I wasn't willing to let my family
But I
suffer
still,
because of it.
I agree, and I think that in when we're in those places, we do look at that and we take that into play. But I still also look at other people who have had just as similar or even worse situations
Hmm.
that still went after and went for it because
Well, in our situations with our income the way it was, we lived comfortably even though it was California.
right.
I have seen other people. In fact, I had a friend of mine who I used to work with at McDonald's, who at one point was homeless, who is now a movie star on one of the soaps. So her point was she had hit rock bottom. She had no other choice but to go up. And by doing so, she managed to get herself into different things. And I think that's where the difference is. For the people that have nothing, nothing, and their only choice is to go up, they'll push harder.
Mhm.
Where we at least were comfortable,
Mhm.
we weren't willing to put our family at risk.
Okay.
If it had been to the point to where, okay, I'm living in a $200 a month flea bitten, roach infested, rat infested motel and doing this, yes, I probably would have done that
Okay.
because I would have done whatever I could to get me out of that.
Okay. So once again, that's what I'm trying to get into is the mindset and how we perceive things and how we look at things sometimes. And sometimes we allow ourselves to put that there because I know I've done it myself. I have actually done it. I've even done it within doing my own business even now.
Hmm.
And so but I'm also getting that shift. I'm getting my shift now too, and
Hmm.
I feel it. I
Well,
sense it.
now I've gotten to the age where I'm being selfish.
That's kind of how I am now. I'm looking at my family. I'm looking
You
at,
know,
what?
it's not no longer 20, 30 years ago. I didn't just graduate high school. And I'm thinking back then, well, things will change in 4 or 5 years. Everything will be more stable. I'll be able to go back to school. I'll be able to do what I want to do. And as life progressed, it isn't what happened. It became harder to go back to school and get the things I wanted to do because I had to work harder to make that 40-hour work week to make the rent.
Right. But sometimes I think once again we go back to that we kind of box ourselves in
Hmm.
rather than saying, you know what, this really is not what I'm meant for, what I'm about, what I'm for, what I can offer to everybody, what I can offer the world out there. And I
I
have
actually believe that my life experiences coming up to now has helped prepare me for this. I don't think even back there going back to the subway and stuff, At 20, what did I really know about running a restaurant?
True.
I knew nothing about running a restaurant. All I knew was that Subway at that time was, because it was pretty much a startup company back then.
Right.
I could have had it in a mall with complete ovens and my first 6 months payroll advanced to me
Mhm.
to get it going.
Right.
But I wouldn't have known about proper payroll of
Mhm.
how to set it up, how to pay it. I understood the bill end of it,
Mhm.
but not the full profit and loss and how to figure out. In fact, that's still been a learning curve with this. Um, I wanted to pay the most I could pay without hurting me, not really considering the consequences of what I was trying to do.
Mhm.
And so even now, I'm still learning. You got to reevaluate how your payroll is coming in to what the money you have coming into the payroll going out,
Right.
and not hurt yourself.
Right.
And so yes, I wanted to pay everybody a fair wage. I wanted us all to make a minimum of $15 an hour starting out, and it wasn't a realistic goal, for some of us to get that
Mhm.
without them going out and working hard, promoting themselves
Mhm.
to get them to that $15-$25 an hour.
Right.
Even though I was paying a 30% commission rate with no actual hourly,
Right.
because I didn't have money to pay for an hourly.
Right.
The goal was and to be honest, you and I both know our former company, in order to hit that 30% commission rate, you had to have a $700, $800, or $900 return to hit that commission rate.
Exactly. Oh yeah. Yeah. Very much
So
so.
I started off saying, okay, I'm going to pay you 30% commission off of whatever you make, but you're going to have to go out and market yourself. And the various people I had coming in here to do it just wasn't doing it.
Right.
So I now have an independent contractor working with me who's bringing in good money.
Mhm.
But because she's an independent contractor, I still wanted to be fair. And I've learned, even with what I have done with her, I've overpaid that out too.
Right.
Because I figured 20% of her, whatever she brings in, is 20% more than what I had before. However, she's using my credit card,
Mhm.
merchant machines, and different things. And she actually brought in the case of paper, and we're splitting cases of toner. But technically that's not her job to do. It's my job
Right.
as the business owner to provide the paper, provide the toner. And I'm actually thinking, if I do this in the future, it's going to be a 60-40.
Mhm.
They can have 60%, I'll take 40%,
Mhm.
just to make it fair for me having to take care of what I need to take care of for them.
Okay. So now, we covered some of those things in mindset, and I think that's the biggest thing. That's the part of what I really was wanting to get out of this interview and out of what I've learned, what I've seen, what you've gone through, and that dreams are worth it. Dreams are valuable.
Oh, dreams are always valuable.
It's so worth it to do it because I'm sure right now,
If you would have asked me in my 20s, would I be the owner of a bookkeeping and tax preparation place, I would have said,
right.
because it's not where my mindset was.
Mhm.
My mindset back then was I wanted to become a child psychiatrist. I wanted to help the kids that people overlook. The
I
latchkey
know the
kids.
feeling.
The latchkey kids. Everybody else that has a stable environment, those are the kids that's overlooked.
Mhm.
And that really was my first goal, was I really wanted to become a child psychiatrist. I never had the money to go to school. I didn't qualify for scholarships because my grades were either not high enough, or I was competing against minorities that had lower grades and getting it because they had to fill the minority quota. And that's not saying that I don't think anything was wrong with that. I just wish I would have had the same opportunities. Having a 3.4 GPA, being able to get the same scholarship and grants that went to a friend of mine who had a 2.4 GPA.
Okay. Now I'm
If it was
planning.
an apple to apple thing, I don't think I would have been so hurt by it.
Uh-huh.
But I always felt that, keep my grades up, do what I have to do to get into college. I'll get at least the Pell Grants or stuff like that. And in order to be accepted, they chose the ones to fill the
I'm
Go
going to
the
play a
other.
little devil's advocate here, and you know me, I'm good at that. I love doing that.
I know.
My case in point. Granted, I wasn't, I was comfortable like you. You know, coming from my background and, you know, living with my aunt and uncle who became my family and, you know,
Hmm.
and that background. But in that, you know, I went to school, I went to stuff, I got, you know, the A's and B's. I graduated 55th in my class with honors. But I didn't really actively go out and get scholarships or anything. But I
No,
went,
I just needed money to go to school. I was
see,
making
that's,
$2.90 an hour, 40 or actually 60 hours a week at McDonald's, who was not willing to let me off to go to school. But yet that job was needed in order for me to survive. So then when I had the opportunity to go to school again, it went back to, whoops, you still don't qualify because your dad makes too much money. Yes, you have the grades,
but
but you
that's
don't
not,
have the other thing. So it just always was a vicious circle. Either I had
mm,
jobs that would not allow me to go off of work to go to school, or my choice was to quit the job that was supporting me, my mother, my brother.
but that's not the point I'm trying to make because I had the grades, but I didn't apply for scholarships. So I didn't get that. I didn't go for a Pell Grant.
I just had no money.
I paid for my own schooling.
I understand that.
All that out of my own
But when
pocket.
you're making $2.90 an hour
I was
minimum
making
wage,
$3.10 an hour,
right? That's what I'm saying.
$3.60 an hour.
But you weren't paying all the bills. I was paying.
I was paying my mom rent.
No, I was paying 90% of the bills in our household
Okay,
off of the
there's
minimum
okay. I
wage.
will get that. Okay,
So the difference is I needed to work that. And when I asked if I could work either a later shift or a morning shift so I could pick up a couple hours, one class a week, I was told you either want the hours or you'll go down to 20 hours a week and you can't afford it.
okay,
So, because I actually went in and asked, can I work a split shift? Can I come in and work like 5 to 10, leave, go take one class in the afternoon, come back and work 5 to 10
okay.
to get in my 8 hours with breaks? And I was told no. We didn't have online classes back then.
Right.
So that wasn't an option for me. Yes, there was TV classes, but even with the TV classes came on at 2 in the morning.
Well, see,
And so to actually see, if you could actually see the class, because the broadcast was so weak out of the colleges, depending on where you lived, you may or may not have gotten the TV signal.
okay,
You still had to then usually go in on a Saturday for the physical class once a month
okay.
during the quarter. So you're talking at least 4 or 5 days I had to go in, and I did do a few of those. I actually finished not that many credits off. I think I had about 8 or 10 credits by doing that,
Mhm.
but it still wasn't enough. And then when you're the one that's supporting the house off of $2.90, 3.10, 3.35, you finally just
Okay,
you
I
just
get you.
can't
Okay,
pay for the class. And then
right.
you had other people saying, well, I'll help you pay for the class. For example, my father would say, Karen, just go get enrolled. I'll pay for the class. And then I would call him and say, look, Mike, I need the money to pay for the class now or I can't go. And he would send me the check 3 weeks after class started.
Mm.
So
Okay.
it was not that I didn't have the want to go. It was more I didn't have the cooperation for me to go.
Okay.
Because I did try the TV classes, and I did, because you couldn't take all of them
Right.
that way.
Mm.
But I did take oceanography. I took astronomy. I took a lot of the science classes
Mhm.
that I really did not want to go take biology. Any science class that I could take through those TV classes, get the credit, and English wasn't something you could take through one of those.
Right.
These were just some of the extracurricular type stuff to help build you to get you into the other stuff. But it was the only way I could do it.
Okay, but going back now in relation to, you know, your life and doing this and getting you to here, because I think you're great with taxes. You're
Mm-hmm.
awesome, and that's something you're good at. And I think you'd like it.
I do. I like helping people. I don't like numbers, but I like helping people. So when I can take, for example, the client that had that $118,000 balance due on his audit and flip it to where he gets a $10,000 refund, that's a high. There's no drug out there that can make you feel any better than that.
So that's what I'm getting into is the fact of what having your own business and stuff. That's part of the drive that drives you to do what you're doing. Just like I'm doing my drive for doing what I'm doing. But
my drive is that it's to get people out of IRS trouble legally, not rip them off. And besides, there is no more fun than beating IRS.
Yes.
I get that high off of that. I'm
right.
sorry, I do.
Well, and that's kind of like me with some of the things I do, like in my regular full-time job and stuff like that I do. There are certain things where, like when I win a chargeback or something, and I can just, without trying to charge the chargeback to us, saying that we got to refund it because of this, and I can win the chargeback. I get a high off that. Sorry.
Well, that day that I won that audit here, I walked around all day long singing, I won, I won, I won, I won, I won.
Right.
And I think I actually did it for 3 days because it was a big deal. Because that particular audit, it wasn't just about going and presenting the case. The auditor that pulled the case for the audit was incompetent. And I had to wait for her to hang herself, write a letter to her supervisor,
right.
Get a new auditor assigned to me, and then I won.
Mm-hmm.
So that one was just that much more special because it wasn't just going in, presenting the case, and walking out and leaving. I don't think I would have had that type of high. This one was so involved with getting everything I had to do was so involved with getting it done that it made the win that much sweeter.
So that's like kind of building in with building your own business and doing that, knowing that you're established, you're getting established, that you're building that clientele, that you're building that. Or like for me, my online, getting my sales and having people buy and stuff. And for me, seeing the residual compensation come in month after month because I have, my regular people that buy stuff regularly from me, or they pay a subscription to me. So they're on a subscription basis, so every month I get that same thing, and then I have new people buying stuff like that.
Well, hopefully with the bookkeeping we'll have that. But if you actually think about it, with taxes in general, you don't really have a month-to-month. It's an annual to annual. Now, with the corporations, you may have a little bit more interaccess with them, but taxes realistically is an annual thing. So it's not just about building the annual clients, stashing away the money for the months that are lean. You also have to find other types of income to help sustain it, which I'm doing that. But the biggest one is getting the traditional bookkeeping client coming in, so whoever my accountant bookkeeper is at the time has enough money to sustain them, and also me to have some money coming in off of that as well.
Right.
But that's a sideline thing. The ITINs is another one where that one people need help with those year round. The audit letters, we're no longer going to be doing the DMV services because the person that wanted to do those is leaving, and I really had no interest in doing those.
Right. So so now you're at a point in your life where you really feel like what you're doing is serving the purpose that you set out for what you wanted to do, and so the difference now is it's the right time. You are at that right place in your mind, in your head, in the setup of where you wanted to go, and you finally decided it's some time to just do it.
Right. I had friends in the background that were backing me saying, Karen, you can do this, which is the first time I've actually had that. Because in the past, I haven't had that.
Right.
I've had family tell me, Karen, yes, you can do this, you can do that. But in the end, you don't know enough. You're not smart enough. Da-da-da-da-da. So I never had the confidence to push it through. The friends that I have now that I've circled myself with, they actually started out having more confidence in me than me.
Right.
And it has transcended into not only me opening my own business, it's transcended into now a 57-pound weight loss in 1 year. When I started the business, I was wearing a 28. I'm now down to an 18. So the business has done a lot of things for me full circle,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a good thing. And the more I lose weight, the more confident I am about doing different types of interviews that's public,
Mm-hmm.
and which I'm a ham when I'm teaching class.
Uh-huh.
Teaching class is not a problem.
Yeah,
Get me
both of us, we
going.
both like teaching class.
Keep getting going. I have no problem getting up in front of an audience and teaching, but with a broken tooth in the front of my mouth that I still can't afford to fix, I was self-conscious about doing that, so I walk around.
I know the feeling with having 4 teeth pulled, so.
Yeah, but you're getting those fixed. I still have the broken tooth in my
But
mouth.
it still doesn't take away the self-confidence on it,
No.
because I really still want my teeth back. But getting back into it, I understand what you're saying about, the confidence and stuff. Like, the mentors I have for what I'm doing and stuff, and the people I'm surrounding myself, and in some of the books they're saying, a lot of times family and friends that we have associated with the past, or sometimes even though they mean well, and we don't realize that they're part of what's holding us back, because we tend to put what their thoughts and what they're saying as more important than what we're feeling and what we think we can do. So therefore we place more weight on that rather than on what we believe we and know we can do. And they say that if you look at the average of your 5 friends and their income, that's about what your average income will be. But if you start surrounding yourself with those that are where you want to be, and start modeling those that you are following and working with and modeling after, you start changing and start achieving those things, because you're modeling and doing that, and you're changing, and you're getting out of that old mindset. And sometimes you have to let those old friends and old people go,
Right. In
because
this
of the fact
particular
that.
case, and I wish I could say her name, but because she still works for the prior company, if it had been for her
Hmm.
to back me both on a personal level and a business level, um, I don't know if I would have made it the first year. And now she's having different issues at her home as well, and I'm trying to back her as well. But it's not anything out of the ordinary. It's nothing like we're two lesbians or anything else like that. We're just two good friends that's trying to help each other. And those
Well,
type of friendships are few and far between. That when you get somebody that has so much confidence in you that it actually, and then not to be afraid to tell you, Karen, you just screwed up royally. You shouldn't have done this. You should have done that.
right.
And, she's comfortable enough in her own skin to tell me when I screw up. And she's comfortable enough in her own skin too for me to tell her, look, this is what you should have done.
Hmm.
Or I told you should have done this months ago, and then this wouldn't have happened to this level. And she's willing to accept. We both take that type of criticism well from each other. Now, if it had been somebody else giving us that same type of criticism, it wouldn't have happened.
And I think that's the point. You got to learn who is the best people to surround yourself with, but also people that share the same vision and are like-minded like you, and that are going the same direction, or at least willing to support that direction that you're going. Just like me with whatever I'm doing, I've got certain people now that I'm surrounding with, and finding more people that are helping me in that aspect. And so in that sense, it's building me up, and I'm branching out more, and I'm doing a little more now, and I'm finding my own confidence a little bit more in what I'm doing. And it's because of now seeing one of my mentor, actually, my sponsor, what she's doing. And it's like, she's doing that. She's doing it. I'm seeing that. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
I can do it.
To be honest with you, Dan,
I'm seeing you do that
I have
with your
seen you
business.
from the time that you left our former company to now. There is 180% change in your confidence level,
Oh, thanks.
especially once you got the job that you were comfortable in and you're doing and you're growing. Um, you're not the same person that left our former company.
Thank you. That makes me feel good. And I think that partly grown through what I went through before
It goes
where
back
I'm
to
at.
the experiences that we go through to get us to where we're finally able to succeed.
Well, I think
And
I
it's
had to
finding
go
those
through,
ways to make it succeed. But we both have the want and the will. We will find the way.
and that's what it goes back to. Whatever it takes, deciding that okay, this is it. I'm done. I'm doing it. And if I fall down, I'm going to get back up and I'm going to keep going.
Right?
That's the biggest part, and that's the biggest thing out of it. Is if I fall down, it's not how many times you fall down; it's how many times you get
You
up
get up
and
and
keep going.
going.
And so with that, we've taken 35 minutes plus about the 10 or 15 before we got interrupted. So I thank you for your time and your let me do this. Um, I hope that when I share this on my blog, that people will understand the importance of the faith in yourself, believability in yourself, and don't let your own limiting beliefs of things that you think you can't do
I want to add one
stop you.
more.
Go ahead.
It's always been my faith that God leads us down the path that we need to be. God
I
will tell
agree.
us when it's time for us to do what we need to do. And I fully believe that I would, with everything that I've been through in my life, God has directed me all the way.
Same here.
And yes, I've had hard times. Yes, I've had good times. But I am the person who I am because I follow God.
Right. I agree. So with that, thanks. Make a simply simple day, and I'll catch you on my next blog post. Thanks. Bye.